I'm Richard.
I'm Doug.
And we're the Card Game Guys, the internet's premier source for DC deck building game content. This is the first of our Forever Evil games that we recorded, although you might have seen our Rogues crossover first. As you can see, I am playing as Deadshot, although I've used alternative art that I put up of Earth-2 Deadshot, which will make more sense as the game goes on.
And I'm playing as Lex Luthor this game, which is basically just, opposite Wonder Woman. Because he's playing off of heroes instead of villains, because for Forever Evil, you're fighting your superheroes instead of the supervillains. And our openings here are pretty pedestrian. I just picked up Man-Bat and Shadow Thief there for...
Yep, with the exception of that Man-Bat, all of the cards that we've bought are ones that we use in our regular core games, so they're nothing out of the ordinary yet. Although here, I'm about to buy something that is kind of out of the ordinary, Sledgehammer, which is a good example of what's different with Forever Evil. Forever Evil, there's a lot of destroying cards, and to incentivize you destroying cards that aren't just, your starters and weaknesses that you always want to destroy, there are effects like Sledgehammer, which give you VP if you destroy something with cost 1 or greater.
Yeah, it really lets you take things like those kicks out, which we can just see I just bought one. Where they're really good in the early game to help you get that power and get you over the hump to get you to like those 7 cost cards that we're starting to collect in the lineup there. But then in later game, when you want to actually see those 7 cost cards more often, you can destroy those kicks, retain the VP, and you're not really penalized for thinning out your deck.
And really, it does make the game a lot different than the core game, because a lot of the times you're just trying to buy up all those cards that give you victory points regardless of how good they are at a certain point. But in Forever Evil, if it's not giving you more than just the victory points, you can destroy it and get some other benefit from it.
Well, in like the core game, for example, you really want to try to combo off of your discard pile, where if your deck is only 15, 20 cards big, in Forever Evil, you don't have that kind of focus, like Robin, even though he's not in Forever Evil, kind of would lose his specialness, because your discard pile is not going to be that big to pull out a random equipment that you want to use.
And one of the other traits for Forever Evil you can see is gaining victory points through alternate means, or spending them as a resource, as we saw in that Porthole to Nowhere that was just bought. And so you'll see the little counters on the table that are worth 1, 5, and 10 victory points respectively in their different piles. Although no one's actually gained any victory points yet.
Although I just did pick up a card that lets me potentially do it every time I play it, which is one of my favorite cards in the set, the Royal Flush Gang, where you get victory points for each other one that you play. So if you play 1, you get 0, of course, but 2, you get 2, and then you kind of escalate from there. And it has a mechanic where it helps itself generate, because you're drawing 2 cards every time you play it, and then you're discarding 2 cards. So you're kind of digging for your own Royal Flushes.
In fact, I identified Doug so strongly with that card that if you watched our Rogues crossover, you may have noticed that I called David Doug a couple of times because he was playing so many Royal Flush Gangs.
And unfortunately, I'm playing the wrong villain to do that. Captain Boomerang is my favorite one to use, because you get to use that start of your turn, pull up out a card with the lowest VP total. And Royal Flush Gangs innately have 0 VP, so you can pull 1 out of your discard pile every single turn if you have it there. And so you can start your digging for the other ones just straight up. Another kick purchased.
Now you will see some other cards too that you would actually buy out of the lineup but have 0 VPs, like those 2 boomerangs that are sitting in the lineup right now.
And that's what I was just going to mention. Our lineup's getting a little bit expensive here. So that's probably why the kicks are going.
And whatever isn't cost 7 that goes into the lineup gets bought every time too.
Right. Oh, then we got an attack.
Yep, a power drain. And that's another different mechanic with Forever Evil, is that there are attack cards where you choose a foe to suffer the attack rather than hitting all foes.
In fact, I think the vast majority of the attacks are that way. if not all of them, in Forever Evil.
Yes, in the core Forever... Well, it's not all of them, but it's quite a few of them in the core Forever Evil. But yes, in the Crisis expansion, we use a lot of the Crisis cards here in this set. There are more that hit every foe.
More of those global attacks, yeah. So yep, another case of buying the not 7.
Yes, and that Expert Marksman is a lot like the Sledgehammer that we talked about earlier, but it affects different types of cards.
Yeah, there's several of those. I mean, there's Expert Marksman, there's the Super Intelligence, I think it is.
Super Intelligence is part of a different cycle. That's one that you can use for power, whereas the Expert Marksman, Sledgehammer, Steel, Atomica, that set it'll give you VPs instead of power. So they're different cycles.
There goes first Boomerang, which is a nice card because if you're holding it and someone draws a card, you get to draw a card.
And if you've ever played DC deck building game, you know that a lot of the strong effects are to draw cards. So getting your hand better when opponents make their hands better is a fun trick.
David opts to keep the lineup expensive by taking the Flash.
Well, the Flash is a really good card too. That draw 3 cards and discard a card is a very strong effect. And now we see Superman coming out and trying to make us destroy a bunch of superpowers.
I lose. There goes that power drain. So we're not going to see that anymore unless someone goes and gets it. Because there are effects. The destroyed pile is much larger in Forever Evil, and there are effects that let you go get stuff there.
And here we see the great combo that you can pull off if you are running the Royal Flush Gang trick, and that's having Belle Rev also as a location that gives you +1 power for each villain you play. And Doug realized early on that he was playing the wrong supervillain, so he picked up some villains and is taking advantage of that. But now he gets to take advantage of being Lex Luthor because he did buy a hero.
Except that I don't.
Oh! So sure he was playing the wrong supervillain that he forgot to take advantage of his ability at all. But David didn't as Cheetah. He gets to destroy a card or draw an extra card because he bought 2 cards instead of just 1.
So there's a neat thing in the lineup that we can see right now. There's several of these really low-cost cards with 0 VP that have an effect in Forever Evil when you destroy them. And so there's Venom Injector there, which is 2 power, I believe, when you destroy it when it's in any zone, whether it's your discard pile or your hand or wherever. But if it gets destroyed and you destroyed it, you get 2 power for destroying it. And there's no drawback to destroying it because there's no VP on it. And that's another thing with that cycle of cards that give you VP for destroying things is you can generate VP for your deck by destroying one of those with a Sledgehammer or with...
Although you couldn't destroy a Venom Injector with a Sledgehammer,
right?
Since it says non-equipment card. Yes.
Right. Or the Marksman card.
Yeah, no, your point stands. I just wanted to make that distinction because we have seen people try to destroy the wrong type with those cards. So be sure to read exactly what your card does because it'll matter. Transmutation is a strong one. It's destroy a card, gain a VP, and then you can also gain a card from the lineup if you can figure out a way to do that. So that can be fun with, we've seen boomerangs in the lineup. Obviously, I'm not going to get one because you guys took both of them. But using that 0 VP card to destroy, gain a VP, and then pull like a 2 victory point card out of the lineup can be really strong.
Yes, it can.
Especially if you've been using the boomerang all game and then you just decide to turn it into something valuable later on.
Or you're on the last villain, and you're hero in this case, rather, and you know you can't beat it, and you expect one of your opponents are going to be able to, you can, convert that boomerang into victory points, because you're probably not going to see it again before the game's over.
Yep. There's a certain degree of flexibility to it, so it's got a lot of potential, does a lot of things.
Just a whole lot of straight up power of this hand.
And now we're kind of figuring out at this point that Superman coming up as the second superhero is going to be a problem because he costs a whopping 12, which is a lot to try to take out this early in the game.
Well, and in general, in Forever Evil, you don't see as many massive power hands either.
Yeah.
It's a lot more various utility things that's going on during your return. Just gaining VP instead of, getting 4, 5, 6 power. Even like the big power thing, Ultra Strength, is, 3
power and draw 2 cards. Yeah.
So it's, there's no, well, I don't want to say there's no, but if there are big, like 5 power cards, they're few and far between. And I think that it tops out at 3.
I can't think of one that comes base with more than 3. Although Firestorm, obviously, because of the way it works, could potentially snowball and be like 8
Massive.
Power when you play it, 12 power. Unlimited power!
Assuming you can get them to keep coming up, yes. But you have that flip side of you're always, blowing up stuff in your deck. And you don't get to control what it is. And more royal flushing and goodness.
And more me not noticing that I can use my superhero ability.
I was going to say, have we talked about that counter?
We haven't, no. The way Deadshot works as a supervillain is that every time, or once during each turn, when a player discards a card, I can put a card with cost 5 or less from my discard pile on top of my deck. Which, since Doug has Royal Flush Gang, and that makes him discard, David has the Flash that he just played, and that makes him discard a card, I should be using that ability like crazy. But as you can see, I've only done it 1 of the 5 times it's come up so far. And that's why I used the Earth-2 Deadshot image from the Flash, because he was nicknamed Deadshot for being a terrible shot, as opposed to a great shot like the core timeline Deadshot would be known for. So playing a bit of irony there, because it's gonna get ugly, folks.
Communicator and transmutation again.
And there's one of my favorite cards, Nightmare Nurse, which gives you the chance to destroy a 0-cost card in any player's discard pile. And if you picked a weakness or a vulnerability, like I just did out of David's pile, you can get 2 VPs for that. It's really good when you're destroying your own weaknesses and you lose the -1 and gain 2 VPs. It's a big swing.
Yeah, it is. Just for playing a card, a 3 VP swing is pretty big. And even if you're destroying your opponent's weaknesses or
Ideally vulnerabilities, yes.
Yeah, ideally vulnerabilities, but you're still ahead because, it's a 2-for-1 deal kind of thing. And
you're still gaining 1 more VP than they are.
Now, the flip side of it is kind of those victory points that you accrue for all the various card effects, whether you're destroying your own stuff or you're just gaining them through various means. Those aren't exactly safe, because I know we've seen her come out here.
Yeah, we saw Catwoman, and I'm sure that's what you're talking about.
Yep, Catwoman, where you get to steal your opponent's victory points. Or there's a couple other ones where...
I think that Man Bat you bought on the first turn it's a defense, and when you use it, you steal a VP from the person who attacked you.
Exactly. And so they're not exactly safe, and you can lose them for various reasons. Cosmic Staff.
That's rarely a bad pickup. I think we're trying to figure out why there's only 4 cards in the lineup.
Yep. I was kind of wondering that right now, too, where...
So we see the Man Bat we were just talking about. So that's another thing that Forever Evil did that was different, is it really kind of tweaked the way that defenses work. There's not a lot of drawing cards going on in this set with your defenses. It's gain a VP from Commissioner Gordon, steal a VP from the attacker with Man Bat. Just being able to destroy a vulnerability instead of discarding your card with invulnerable that we see. So there's a lot of Cosmic Staff that we were just talking about, gain the bottom card of the main deck. There's a lot of different side effects to defending.
Instead of just drawing a card. And I can't think of too many just straight up draw card effects in Forever Evil anyway. There is Royal Flush Gang.
The Flash.
And
And Ultra Strength. We've talked about all of those.
But I don't think there's too many more that just straight up let you draw cards. I mean, it's not like Kid Flash is running around.
Right. Well, there is Johnny Quick.
There's Johnny Quick.
Which is the same thing, but a villain.
But there's not Raven. There's not, the ring that lets you do it, the flight ring, etc. I mean, in the core set, there's all sorts of cards that let you draw cards. And it's more about, again, utility of your various cards that you're using instead of just straight up power or straight up card
Right.
draw.
Even like that tarot cards that I just bought. That's more of a utility card, even though it does gain you power and VPs. So that's a kind of interesting one. It's a very flexible card. And look, I didn't notice Doug discarding again.
And I'm sniper rifling, so someone's going to probably be discarding unless a defense is thrown, in which case they're discarding for the defense.
Right. But I've already missed the opportunity for this turn, because you can only do it once per turn. So I'm not going to count my counter any higher. Yep, Doug sees that I'm running ahead on victory points and gets rid of that Nightmare Nurse.
There's the counter. 1 of 7. So one thing that I don't think we value enough, potentially, is those frozen tokens on various games, just in general. Being able to lock down a card in the lineup that just can't be bought is always interesting, because it kind of limits what your opponent can and cannot.
Yeah, and I think it actually, with the release of Crisis 3, got a lot better because there is the Iced Over card, which rewards you for having multiple frozen tokens out at the same time. When it's just the Cold Gun, the problem is that the Cold Gun being a 2-cost card that only gives you the 1 power, you don't want to be seeing it as much because it's not doing anything much more than freezing a card.
True.
And it's usually better to buy the card than to freeze it to buy later. So that's kind of why we don't value it that much, and I think the existence of Iced Over really helps with that.
True. And I think it'd be interesting to see more effects like that in the game going forward, where you're doing something to the lineup or imposing a cost. Like if they came out with something where, like, if your opponents or if anyone buys said card, they gain a weakness or something.
Sure. Although we did see there that I was able to go ahead and buy the card that I had frozen on the previous turn, so it was used just as it was intended to, and actually accomplished its job. So it is a very useful ability. And here's another one of those fun Omni attacks that hit everybody, but it is essentially a choose a target effect, but you get to choose it after you see what you're going to affect with it.
Much like kind of Sniper Rifle, for example.
Yeah.
Where you're only hitting one opponent, but...
Hey, look. Somebody discarded a card, and I didn't notice. We see again here another high power turn where Doug's getting up to 10, but it's not the 12 that we need to get Superman out of the way. So it's just dragging the game on. Having just seen how effective chlorokinesis is, Dave decides to get in on the action. And there we see my favorite location in the expansion, level 7.
This seems to be a fairly location-heavy deck thus far.
Oh, yeah.
I've got 2. I think you've got...
I've got 2 out, or 1 out already. And then
I was going to say
I'm
one's...
probably shooting to get level 7 as quick as I can because I really like the card. So
that's 4, and we're on our second hero. But again, this hero is taking a particularly long time because he's Superman.
Yeah. At least it's not quite as bad as in the core set when you flip up a 12-cost supervillain in the second one, and it's like Parallax, and everybody's got nothing but starters in their hand.
So it just lays waste to everybody.
Ouch. So that would be a good time to kind of talk through Firestorm, which is an interesting mechanic. When you play Firestorm, you set aside the top card of your deck, and all of the game text on all of those cards is on Firestorm. So the first time Doug played it, he got a punch, so Firestorm permanently has +1 power on it. And this time he wasn't quite so lucky and got a vulnerability.
Right.
But that gets a vulnerability out of his deck. So right now he's It's
kind
not,
of
it's not real strong, but it has done good things. It's gotten rid of a punch and a vulnerability, and it's still not useless. It's still giving him that one power for now, and hopefully it'll get stronger as the game goes on.
Yeah, on a lot of those, like even I'm thinking of Firestorm Matrix too, where you get to destroy the thing and it sticks around and you get to keep using it, or in the case of Firestorm, it makes Firestorm more powerful every time. Just in general, it's kind of a double-edged thing where you'd have liked to get, say, a kick with that, but then you're also removing those starters from the deck, so the deck's getting better, so it's hard to be upset either way.
Right.
It kind of just depends where you're at.
Yeah. And obviously none of this compares to the dream turn of playing that Firestorm Matrix and flipping up Power Girl.
Right, because Power Girl every turn is just crazy.
Yes.
I effectively have 3 Vandal Savages.
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous.
Well, we know what I'm going to try to purchase here.
Madame Xanadu?
Yeah, totally. Not the,
Hey, you're Lex Luthor. That lets you draw an extra card if you buy Madame Xanadu.
Once. It lets me do it once. If I remember, because I haven't been great at doing that this game. And I wonder what I'm thinking about here as far as... Oh, okay. We're waiting for David to defend here. The card can use this.
And I just, discarded the card straight up because I knew you were going to pick me, because I was the only one who had defended.
Though you did get your Deadshot trigger, it looks like. So you're at 2 of 9.
Hey! I'm on top of my game now. Oh, it looks like you were right and I was wrong. You didn't go for Madame Xanadu. You went for the Royal Flush Gang instead.
So I think we there also saw the start of something that interesting that you can do with Frankenstein, where a Venom Injector got destroyed. And with Frankenstein, you can spend VP to pull the VP cost of card out of the destroyed pile and put it into your discard pile, I believe.
You can spend any number that you choose in victory points to gain a card with that many victory points on it.
Now, Venom Injector is 0 VP, so when you play him, or when you play Frankenstein, you can pay 0 VP to just gain that Venom Injector. And then you can, either with all the various destroy effects, destroy it immediately to get said effect, whether that's gaining VP or gaining power through those destroy effects that give you power. Just getting that cycle action going on, you can kind of see where that's free power or free VP every time around, and you can go from there.
Now, I don't know if you noticed quite what I was doing, but I used my tarot cards and I got 2 power out of it by giving David a VP that I then immediately tried to steal with Catwoman.
Well, it's a little convoluted because you could have just stolen the VP he already has.
That's true, but I wouldn't have had that extra power then, and I wanted to buy that power armor I just picked up.
So here we go with the thing I was just talking about, I believe.
Yep,
so
that was the first time the Venom Injector was purchased for free.
And then destroyed for the extra power in the Venom Injector, and I gained the VP for destroying it with Atomica.
Again, a convoluted combo, but it gets work done.
Destroying those 0 cost or 0 victory points things to give you victory points is just gravy. Yes.
That is kind of how they're intended to work together, oddly enough.
Sniper rifling.
Somebody has a superhero in their hand. Could you possibly pick them? Ooh.
Oh, and
there goes that 1 VP you had, Doug. Thanks.
It happens. Oh, I took Power Girl instead, it looks like.
Interesting. Apparently you don't fear the Flash.
Apparently not.
Or you're trying to drive up my missed Deadshot triggers.
Or I might be expecting a boomerang in my next hand. Because that would be a good reason to not pick the Flash.
That's true, yeah.
Because that's one way you can get to 12 power, is drawing 3 cards off of someone else's draw cards.
Whoa.
Yes, I know. I took your nightmare nurse.
No, I'm just talking about the fact that you had 12 power and you didn't buy Superman. Instead, you bought the whole lineup.
Right. It's entirely possible. I just didn't realize I could have bought Superman.
Yeah.
So did said gamble pay off? No.
Didn't look like it. But for those of you playing the home game, I did miss another trigger. We get Pandora's Box, and if you've been paying attention, you'll notice we hit a 4-cost card every time, so we add 4 extra cards to the lineup. Opens up the options a little bit.
I always have mixed feelings about Pandora's Box, assuming you're not using Pandora or something else on top of that, or Copperhead, for example, where you have benefits for having a really big lineup. Because, yes, you get the opportunity to have a bigger pick for your turn, but so does probably the player behind you, because they're going to have, in Richard's case probably here, likely 8 cards instead of the 5. Maybe 7, but you're still up options for your opponent. And now it's probably not going to help me at all, but you're still helping the people behind you with the box, probably. Especially if you pop up something, that's a 7 cost or something like that.
So now we see level 7 in action. Sorry to interrupt, but it gives you, every turn it gives you the opportunity to steal VP from a foe, which is a really strong ability. And you can expect to see lots more of that, especially to get defenses out of the way so I can do exactly the same thing with Cat.
Just another case of those, the VP is not safe sitting on your villain.
Right. It just makes you a tempting target for level 7 or Catwoman. Now, level 7 came out in the Crisis expansion, where obviously you're not going to be caring about your VPs yourself. You're more wanting to kind of pass them around to be used as resources, because the goal is to beat the crises and the supervillains, rather than, superheroes.
Yes.
Impossible mode superheroes, yes. Rather than trying to accumulate the most victory points. So it's much kinder of a card in that scenario, because the people that you're stealing the VPs from don't really need them.
But it's still a devastating card in just the regular game.
In the regular game, it's so awesome.
If there's level 7 out there, you buy it if you can. Even over a superhero. Because it's
even to the point of giving somebody else an extra VP in order to do it.
Right, because you can just steal it.
Exactly. And it actually has a second power that is also very strong, both in regular and also very friendly in Crisis mode, which is where you can spend 2 VPs on any player's turn to let that player draw a card. Obviously, I'm not going to use it for my opponents in this version, but in Crisis, where you really need to be able to try to defeat the crises as a team, that little extra drawing of a card can really make a big difference. Especially since you can steal VPs that they gain with those cards to fuel giving more draws.
Right. More level 7 action going on.
Yep. David's trying to figure out what he wants to do.
Defense and gains.
That is one of the ironies in this game too, is that you can attack someone to try to take a VP away from them and have them end up with more VPs than they had before you attacked.
Or in the case of Manbat, stealing one of your VPs instead.
Yes, which is of course ironic. But apparently I've decided that I like stealing VPs, so I've gone for another Catwoman.
There's one of my favorite attacks that probably shouldn't be, but just the...
Talking about the broadsword?
No, well, broadsword too, though I have mixed feelings on that, because 1, 2, or 3 cost cards typically aren't amazing.
Sure.
I mean, in this set, it lets you blow up people's, say, Venom Injectors, or Stephen Trevor's, I think.
You're looking at it all wrong, Doug. You use that to get rid of their Man-Bats and Commissioner Gordon, so you can keep stealing their VPs.
True. So there's that, but I was talking more about the discard 2 cards that's sitting in our lineup there.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Yes. Constructs of Fear.
That one
is the card that he's talking
I was
about.
going to say or Power of the Yellow or whatever, but yeah. I was blanking on the name.
Yes. No, that's a very strong card, being, +3 power, which is, we've already talked about being high for Forever Evil, but it's also got that solid attack of every opponent discarding 2 cards.
And in this set, and you can see I'm trying to keep it for myself for later, in this set, they're probably discarding 2 cards that matter, because all of the trivial little stuff like the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities have probably been destroyed.
Now we see more Venom Injector destruction for big gains, victory point, and 2 power.
Oh, we got Ultraman doing things here.
Oh, he's so nice. If I'd have been playing Ultraman, I'd have gotten rid of Constructs of Fear after Doug froze it.
Can you destroy frozen cards?
Yes.
Okay.
You can destroy them. You cannot buy or gain them.
I was thinking you couldn't for some reason.
Nope. And now we see 3 frozen cards in the lineup. So it's the opposite of last time where I had all the options in the world.
Now you have 2.
Yes.
Well, 3. 4, I guess. But
it's much more limited.
And it looks like we're down to like a handful of kicks anyway.
Yeah, we had to buy a lot because of Superman coming out so early, making it harder to get through the superhero stack.
So that's one thing that's interesting about a lot of the hero or the superheroes. So in the event that we actually ever get to play Superman, you actually pull cards back out of the destroyed pile. I think it's 3 when you play them, so you can
something like that, 3 or 4, yeah.
So if, say, we have 3 kicks in the destroyed pile amongst everybody, of course, you get 6 power for playing that Superman. So that's one of the things that can get you a whole bunch of power if whichever superhero's card, they have a wealth of them in the destroyed pile. You can just go get them and add them to your deck, which is adding VP on top of the power that you're getting. And yeah.
There's Doug for a second time having 12 power, but passing on Superman.
And
but you can understand why. Yes.
Yes. I definitely want that Royal Flush Gang, and I froze that Constructs of Fear for a reason. And buying Royal Flush Gang, I wasn't going to get to Superman anyway, so. And I just not been able to either keep the VP I've been acquiring, or I haven't been able to hit the 2 or 3 gangs together that I've got.
Right.
I think I'm up to 3. Which, if you do get to play them all, is a nice chunk of VP, but you have to kind of get there.
So now we see a great play. We see transmutation being used to... Oh, it's not the play I thought was coming up. He just destroyed a word of power to make it cheaper for him to buy Superman, so he can also get Copperhead.
He's 13, not 12. So that might be...
Oh, sorry. Yes, 13. Wow, that's...
So it wasn't that I couldn't buy
That
him.
explains why Doug hadn't bought him, because Doug was busy Dugging it.
Yes, I was getting to 12 like I do.
Yes. Yeah, I completely missed how ridiculously difficult that Superman was. 13 is a lot.
Yeah, it is. Gaining some weaknesses for various stuff that's happening here. Silly Green Arrow.
How do you mean?
Well, dishing out the weaknesses.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's good if you don't have punches at that point. It's a strong attack.
And I'm losing that VP I gained again.
Can't let Doug hold on to VPs. It's one thing with level 7 is you can just pick somebody and try to keep them down. Although I don't think I'm going to be able to hold on if he starts getting his Royal Flush Gang cycle going.
I think the deck is just a little too big at this point. I don't have enough destroy effects.
Yeah, you're sitting behind me and I'm gobbling up everyone I can get my hand on, because I think the main reason I defended against Green Arrow is I don't think I have any punches left. But nevertheless, I buy him even though his ability is ongoing. Your punches give you 2 power instead of 1. Hopefully that's not going to be an issue. Just have to see.
Oh, we got Cyborg.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's discarding superpower and an equipment. Fortunately, it's not if for each one you don't discard like Green Arrow was.
That's what I'm thinking it should have been. Just for flavor. Anyway, like if you discard no cards, well, there's a lot of way to get outs here. Because you can defend, you can discard just a superpower if you only have one. Or just an equipment. I think it's just kind of a weaker attack.
Or you can discard an equipment and pay a VP to draw 3 cards like David did.
Exactly. And here we go with Flush Gang.
Interesting historical note. The Royal Flush Gang was the enemy that Booster Gold defeated to earn his way into the Justice League back in the classic Justice League International days.
And then we see the Venom Injector combo going off. Hopefully I'm thinking here. Maybe I'm just setting up the Injector being in the discard pile.
Yeah, that looks like that's what you're planning to do. Yep. Doug decides to buy a worthless Man-Bat serum because he has no VPs. He's very optimistic for the future on this turn.
Well, I mean, Vibe is a really good hero. I can't tell if I actually drew my extra card or not.
It looks like you did.
Oh, did you actually get your Deadshot trigger there? You're not 3 of 16? Or did we miss it
I got one not too long ago, yeah.
Oh. And cold gunning, probably Superwoman. No?
Not if he wants to buy Superwoman.
True. Valid point.
And as long as we just brought up Superwoman and he played Ultraman on that turn, it's worth mentioning that cycle of cards. There is... Ooh. That's a harsh attack from Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Handers care about if you cannot gain a weakness, and you're gonna have a villain, probably.
Yes. They're a pretty common card type. But what I was trying to talk about was, you know, the Superwoman, Ultraman, Power Ring, Owlman,
all the Syndicate
cycle.
Guys. Yep.
Yes. What they do is they destroy a card in the lineup, usually of a type, but Ultraman lets you destroy anything, and then they reward you for having more of that type in the destroyed pile.
Because you get power based on the... Is it unique or just in general?
Yeah, based on the number of different ones of that type. Now, what's interesting with that is the way that they interact with the superhero that matches them.
Right.
So, for example, when you play Wonder Woman that we see on the superhero stack right now, you play villains out of the destroyed pile, and then they go to the bottom of the main deck. So they're not there, so that they were weakening your opponent's Superwoman if they've got her. Similarly with, you know, Power Ring and Green Lantern, or Owlman and Batman. Yep. Yeah. Now Doug gets to play his Atomica and get his whole shtick going of getting +1 power and +1 VP and +2 more power. It's a good card then. What does he hit with Firestorm this time? Is it anything? Ooh, sniper rifle every time he gets it out.
And we saw that coming because I played something that let me reveal the top card. And
yes. And you're like, this is a good time for Firestorm. Yes. Because that is ridiculous right now.
Be a little better with Firestorm Matrix, being able to sniper rifle every turn, but...
Yeah, sniper rifle is another one of those that's really good to hit with the Firestorm Matrix.
Another quandary with the Pandora's box. And
but you only hit one.
Yes.
Which is probably just what you wanted.
It is one of those zero-cost cards.
Well, 0 VP cards.
Zero VP.
It costs 1.
Made him discard the kick. And... up to 13.
You should be able to get Wonder Woman if you want her.
I think she's... Oh? I do have Pandora's
Superheroes are
box.
for suckers, apparently. Doug just
Apparently.
has no respect for them.
Or I couldn't math because I left.
It
5
looks
power
like
on the
it
table.
looks like you failed at math. Yes. Wow. 5 power is a lot to leave on the table.
Yeah, because I could have easily bought, something, a kick even. I mean, that's a VP. A kick in the Word of Power. Unless, no.
No, the Word of Power just
Penguin
came
was,
out.
or it was Penguin out there, not Word of Power. But yeah.
Yeah, we see another weird streak with the Pandora's boxes. Now we are at 2 in a row where it's been 1.
Right.
Level 7, keeping Doug down again. See if we've got the Catwoman to follow it up. Did you see me destroying a kick? Because once you are over 20 cards with Deathstorm, a card that's just 1 victory point is dead weight.
Right. Okay, and there goes that.
Yeah, Emperor Penguin's a fun one to destroy. Gaining VPs. Because Doug knows that if he can't outpace me, he's not going to have any VPs.
Right. And then here we go.
I think
It's
you
the
might
one
be
thing
a little
is-
optimistic.
Yes, but, you kind of have to be. It's one thing is you do end up shuffling a lot with the Flush Gang.
Yeah, it digs through your deck really fast. It's like buying a bunch of penguins in the core set. Hey, look, somebody discarded cards and I didn't notice. Amazing.
3 of 18.
There goes Steve Trevor letting you kind of do the same thing again, drawing
Right.
2 and discarding 1.
And you do get, I did get the VP off Atomica for that.
Yep.
It's giving me options when I eventually do, in fact, Frankenstein again. Because I think there's going to be a Word of Power in there now. There's Trevor. There's Man Penguin or whatever it's called.
Emperor Penguin,
Emperor
yes.
Penguin, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of those in there waiting for you. So when you Frankenstein, you can get seasoned to taste, as it were.
Right.
There's
It's hard to pass in the Penguin one, though, because, destroy something for 3 VP is pretty sweet.
Yeah, VPs is how you win the game. So getting more of those is a good thing.
Assuming I get to keep them anyway. David does a whole bunch of stuff. And destroys a cold gun.
Yeah, to gain a VP. Yeah.
Yep.
We haven't seen. Oh, it's unfortunate timing because there is an iced over in the lineup that he could buy, but
Right.
opted not to. He's seen you Frankensteining and is like, hey, I want to get in on that action. Which is understandable with what's in the destroyed pile. It's a pretty strong situation right now.
Mm-hmm. And he did end up freezing that Frankenstein his last turn, so
Yeah.
I couldn't buy it. So
Here, I just
was a
keep
little
trying to
worried
steal
about
VPs from David and giving him more cards. Ha! He got your Royal Flush Gang, Doug. That we were
Which is
never going to see
unfortunate.
because it was on the bottom of the deck.
Right. I could have theoretically got a, staff at some point.
So now I traded a Super Intellect for Black Orchid because it's a solid defense, and hopefully that'll work out for me. Now here's an interesting one, kind of a take on the whole idea of the Royal Flush Gang 2, but instead of discarding the card, you can pass it to another player
Right.
and have some VP shenanigans there too.
Yep, we're going to keep that Frankenstein right there.
You can tell I'm also playing pretty strongly focused on my Deathstorm that I've got, because I've been destroying 1 VP cards.
All the time, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I got a kick, I got a Cat-like Reflexes, which is a card that I love, but it's just not strong enough to kind of keep going with what I'm doing, so we're
Right.
going to make it work.
Well, you're not getting hit with too many attacks anyway.
Right, because I'm buying them all.
Finally seeing some victory points off the Flush Gang.
Oh, and on top of that, you discarded Black Mask to get VPs out of discarding.
Right.
And even with all that, I still haven't noticed that you're discarding cards. Or that you're about to make us
Right.
discard cards.
Chorokinesis. Yeah. I was like, I didn't make him discard Power Girl. Why did I not?
Yeah,
But there we go.
And
It looked like he put it back on top there for a second.
And you made me discard Element Woman, which is too bad because I bought her specifically because she counts as an equipment, and I had the location that triggers off of equipment, and haven't been able to play her yet, I don't think. Oh.
And you were
that
mocking
Man-Bat serum I belittled turned out to actually be worth something. 7 power. That's a nice swing.
Now watch me not buy Wonder Woman. Because...
Well, there's a Firestorm Matrix and Iced Over.
Yeah, but I can still get Iced Over with the Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
Looking at that, I should have Frankensteined the Word of Power. Because then I could have got the...
Firestorm Matrix
Firestorm Matrix instead.
Wouldn't have been a bad choice. Now see, this Aquaman one it's an interesting one. Piling a bunch of zero cost cards from your discard pile on top of your deck. It's setting up a bad turn.
The problem there is how many zero cost cards do most people typically have at this point?
Well, see, here's the thing. He could come out second.
True.
And then it's it's a pretty harsh attack.
But early game, you can put 4 punches on.
Yeah, you
top,
don't want him to be second, but
right.
If he's third or fourth, it can be pretty critical.
Right. But now we're getting into pretty... Well, he needs to be a third or fourth out of 8.
Well, or he's just going to give out weaknesses if people don't have any. Like, I got a weakness because I didn't have any zero-cost cards left. It is an aggressive destruction set, and he kind of checks that a little bit.
Mm. And there goes Firestorm to Chlorokinesis.
Can you blame him? It is
yes,
plus 3 power and make an opponent discard a card of your choice.
Plus something else, probably. Yeah. Because, a card gets added to that.
Right. You see Copperhead's attack, which can be harsh because you can hit. Or you could get, Insanity and get a weakness out of it. Yeah, there's that too. But yeah, you can have somebody... I've seen it hit for 4 cards and discard 4 cards, as we've already talked about how good a discard 2 cards is. Discard 4 cards is pretty strong.
Yeah, I was running in a game I was playing a while ago at this point, but first 2 buys were Copperhead and Pandora's Box. And that was just brutal for the other people at the table because I was hitting... I think I hit like a discard 5 cards one turn because there's that many villains in the lineup. Because I ended up hitting like I don't know, Grundy or somebody on the box, and so like it just flipped that many more villains up and just is awesome.
So now we see my Black Orchid buy pays off as I get to draw into that green arrow that I had, so I gain a bunch of VPs off of that. Sure beats losing 3 to the attack.
True. And unfortunately, it's what happened over on my side.
Yeah. And so I know you have no defenses, so guess who I'm picking on with all of my steel VP cards.
Right. Net loss of 5 VP that round. That's almost more brutal than gaining weaknesses, because you can get rid of weaknesses. Just losing VP.
Hypothetically, you can gain your VP back, too.
True.
It's kind of comparable in difficulty. So as nice as you think that Insanity was, I still didn't care about it enough to not destroy it.
I think it's easier to destroy things in this set than gain VP in this set, personally. I mean, there's... Depending on your deck setup, obviously.
Sure. If you're willing to be aggressive enough with it, you can certainly do whatever you want. And since I know Doug doesn't have a defense, I can destroy a card of his. It was Grid to stop him from using it to put Royal Flush Gangs on top of his deck. That was the right choice.
That definitely was.
You discount Broadsword, but it is really good for cards just like that.
Right. Because Vibe's the same deal, where he's a 2 cost that lets you set things up. And
Vibe isn't quite as strong in the Forever Evil set because there's nothing that's, on the level of really wanting to set it up that Royal Flush Gang is. But when you bring it into the core sets like we've done, where you can use it to set up a Starbolt, it can just be ridiculous.
Right. A Starbolt or a Man of Steel or what have you.
You can't use it for Man of Steel. It has only up to cost 5.
Right. But...
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is still the same. Grid is stronger in Forever Evil, and Vibe gets the advantage in the core sets.
There's just more heroes that are interesting in the core set.
Now this is another one that's kind of nasty. Is getting rid of locations, because normally locations you play them out and you kind of think they're sacrosanct, but no, the Swamp Thing will get rid of them. Doug was glad that he had that Nanda Parbat that completely didn't matter all game, but it mattered now.
Because it was sacrificial.
Yep.
Constructs of Fear. Looks like our camera got hit by something at some point here.
No, I changed the battery and the memory card because the game had gone a little bit longer than we had anticipated. Doug whiffs with his Earth-2 again. Keeps trying to get rid of those punches, but...
No luck. No luck at all.
You hit it the first time you used it, and you keep going back to the well for nothing. I think you've decided, I've got enough weaknesses to make Blackgate Prison worth taking.
Well, it's, I like locations.
Yeah?
They're typically going to be around forever unless you run into...
Well, plus we know cards. Swamp Thing has already hit the table, so you don't have to worry about that. And Doug gets to boomerang to take advantage of the fact that David's drawing cards. And we hit another 4 on Pandora's box.
There's another Killer Frost.
You mean Iced Over?
Iced Over, yes. Killer Frost on the card.
Yes.
Yep. And I have been watching The Flash way too much lately, so...
So have you watched the whole series like 8 times then?
No.
I'm trying to figure out what constitutes too much of watching The Flash.
It's essentially like the show I'm watching right now because I only have time to watch a show.
Sure.
But, yeah. Compared to, I guess, everything else that, which is nothing that I've been watching.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Whereas I will be hitting that phase very shortly when season 3 hops onto Netflix and I can catch up on that. One of those things where don't watch a lot of television when the kids are awake. So gotta catch up once it goes on Netflix.
I think it's only the most recent seasons or episodes rather. But like CW has an app that I'm watching. Yes. Yeah. So you don't have to wait for Netflix. That is one benefit.
Yes, I don't have to wait. I wouldn't have to wait for Netflix if I was willing to watch every CW show that I want to watch the week that it comes out.
Well, it's a month. It's like the most recent 5 episodes or something like that.
Sure. But I would have to be that close to every CW show that I want to watch. And as they keep adding more DC superhero shows, that gets harder and harder.
Right. For example, like I mentioned, I'm watching basically just The Flash because I'm far enough behind on all the other ones where I'm out of sync.
Hey, it's not a 1 or a 4 that gets hit with Pandora's box. We've got a lovely 11 cards in the lineup now for Pandora. That's not bad.
That'll work.
6 power from a 7 cost card. That'll do.
Especially in this set.
Yeah.
Shazam up there with Superman in cost. Is he 13, 14,
He's
12?
up there. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. And
he should be less than 15, though.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just a 12. Scary 12, but still.
Effects remain. Let's see. Do I draw my 7 cards? 3, 5. Oh, looks
you
like
remember that you're drawing more than 5.
I think that's probably why I bought Waller. Is she is a hero?
Yeah. And Green Lantern destroys Commissioner Gordon. That would make for an interesting comic. Wow, you drew all 7, Doug.
I did.
I should give you
Amazing.
a hand.
I am slightly more effective at remembering my hero than you are at this game.
It's a villain, Doug.
Right.
There's a lot going on right now, in case you couldn't tell from the cluttered screen. People are defending like mad. And of course, I've got the cat-like reflexes too, so I'm like, yeah, sure, attack me. I'll just draw a card and destroy a card I don't want. It's a pretty good situation.
Right. Is Lantern our last hero? That we
So,
can beat?
yes. I was going to mention that we just saw David do the whole transmutation to destroy the 0-cost boomerang to gain a multiple VP 7-cost card out of the lineup, specifically Joker's daughter.
Which is why I was asking, because it seemed weird that he would do that if Lantern's not our last guy here.
Nope, Lantern is our last guy, and I think he's optimistic that he can take him out.
He's got a couple cards left in hand, and he's at 8, so I agree with him.
And for some reason, he picked me with Despero to attack, even though I'd already shown my cat-like reflexes and power armor. Now I'm using Black Orchid. Ooh, I get 2 VPs out of that. And didn't notice that I myself discarded a card. Good work.
Let's see, 3 of 23.
Good choice, yes. If you're going to destroy a villain in the lineup, the Royal Flush Gang is the correct choice.
Not that it's going to matter, but...
Sure. It's the principle of the thing.
True. So here's one thing that I tend to do that most people don't. When a card's revealed off the top of my deck, I tend to just leave it revealed just to kind of remind myself what it is in the event that I have something that's triggering off of that.
Yeah, but then your opponents can use that information too, Doug.
True.
You have to trust that your memory is sharper than your opponent's. Whoa. I don't think I saw that coming. I thought that I was probably way ahead and Doug maybe in second place, but David kind of stealth won. I guess he just kind of got all those superheroes.
Yeah, he had a large number of superheroes because we can see already he's got the Flash and Superman over there. He obviously bought Lantern at the end, so that's at least 3 of the 8.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure he got
I think
1 or
10.
2. Oh, did we do 10 this one? Okay.
In any event, be sure you listen to all those words that just flashed up on the screen. The card game, guys. Come play with us.